us humans as a community. I've written Project 120 through their contact us link on their website. They have never done me the courtesy of giving me a reply. So I'm still up in the air about what their real responsiveness is and their interest in the community. If money is being raised for redoing the park, we all know, we all agree with Mr. Carr that the park is in sad shape, but there hasn't been money from the park district or from the city to help us with maintenance, to repair sidewalks. We do not have the amount of garbage cans that they do in the north side parks. If you go to the North Avenue Beach, for instance, you'll see trash cans every few feet. We have 4 trash cans for the whole 57th Street beach area. So it's well and good for people from the North Shore to raise money for us, for our park, but if there were money available for maintenance, the park as it exists would look good. Finally, the Project 120 website says that Jackson Park is underutilized. Jackson Park is heavily utilized. Anyone who comes there during the summer sees that families are picnicking there all hours of the summer days. People are fishing, people are using the driving range every day. So the park is really well utilized, and I think that what many of us, I don't know what the majority want, but what many of us want are the facilities that we cherish and love to use maintained to a standard that makes them more attractive.
Hi, I'm Roberta Siegel. I've lived in this neighborhood my entire life. Look at my hair, you'll know how long that is. I came to a Jackson Park Advisory Council meeting to find out about Project 120 when I got wind of this music pavilion going up behind the museum. My concern was manyfold. One was parking, which has been addressed. Secondly, the reflection of the sound off the water will really affect all the residences on Stony Island, South Shore Drive, Everett, and around the park. That was a second concern. A third concern that came up tonight when we heard about the project is that there's the possibility of art exhibits and various kinds of music. I think that's great, but what about, talking about underutilization, what about the South Shore Cultural Center? Is there room there for the kinds of things? We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
All right, so I want to comment on something that I heard, and I know that's been passed around, that there's going to be an amphitheater with outdoor music, and that is not, the music will be indoors, and I don't think that the string quartet, well, they would have something out there, but it's not going to be bands out there. It's not going to be a rock concert. All right. I get it. Ma'am, it's your turn.
Thank you, Alderman. My name is Sonia Chaucer. I also have lived in Hyde Park for the last 48 years, and I would like to revisit the idea of the pavilion. A tiny pavilion, good for nothing, would look lovely, but we don't want any noise. Why can't we have a bird sanctuary like Montrose Park has? And the pavilion will be very negative with all the birds that migrate around. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Ariana Richards. I'm a resident of Jackson Park Highlands, and before that I was a resident in East Hyde Park as well. I have 3 small children, and it's very disheartening to look at these plans and see nothing put here for the children. There's a park that sits right on 67th and Jeffrey. I'm not going there. It sits on two busy streets. I don't feel safe there. I hate that I have to get in my car and drive to Hyde Park and utilize the parks in Hyde Park. Why is there nothing that I can walk to my children with within the park that is surrounded by trees and greenery so they can play at a nice park? All this money has been put downtown to Maggie Daley Park and parks all around the city. Here, Washington Park, that's in Hyde Park, there was nothing wrong with that park. We used to use that park, but there's still nothing here. I want to walk with my children somewhere. And like I said, that park on 67 and Jeffrey, not doing it.
Is anybody going to answer that question?
I can answer it. And folks, this was about Jackson Park and Project 120, and I got news. I'm not hard to find. If we want to come out and have another discussion, I mean, I'm happy to come out and talk about the parks in the wood. But let me answer the question. Okay, I got you. Let me just remind everyone, we have 600 parks in Chicago, and I'm a Southsider, and I can tell you, no offense to this alderman or any alderman, but when I walk into a ward, guess what? The other 49 wards always get everything, and that ward doesn't. Folks, we have spent millions and millions of dollars in my 13 years in this ward. Millions. And hopefully, we spend millions more. But we do a $30 million capital bond a year. $30 million. Divide that by 50 wards. That's $600,000. A playground with a soft surface costs $500,000. We've just renovated every playground. We'll be done this year. Every playground in Chicago. That's over 550 playgrounds. Nobody in the country is doing that. So we're doing the best we can. I'm the first one to say there's not enough money. There's not enough money in the parks. But I'm fighting and I'm scrapping. I've got 4 kids and I want the same things you do. I do. I grew up in Mount Greenwood. I've lived all over the city, and I just moved back to Morgan Park. And quite frankly, my parks don't look as good as I want them to look, and I'm working at it. I'm working at it, ma'am. What? I will meet you at that park. I'll meet you at that park. I'll meet you next week. I'll get your information. I want to do it. I want to help you. I'm in the park business. Who doesn't want the parks to look as good as I want the parks to look good?
The parks are not a business.
Okay. No, it's got to make money,
The parks are a government service for the community. Stop talking about parks being a business. They're not a business.
I actually don't think I said that. Okay.
All right. Okay, Alonzo, do you want to talk about the investments that have been the new equipment in the parks that we've had over here?
Yeah, and you talked about the park at 67th Street. That's a newer park. That's not an old park.
Have you went up there?
I go, ma'am, if you let me speak.
I'm just saying, but have you seen?
I live in the, ma'am, I think many people in the room would attest that I've worked in this community for the last 16 years. I live in this community, and I have seen it myself, ma'am. I'm the person who was at the park at 1:30 at night on Saturday and Sunday, calling the Chicago police to help us clear the parks out. We all know the parks close at 11 o'clock. I don't have a gun. I don't have a gun. Let me finish, ma'am. Let me finish. Let me finish, ma'am. Okay. So the other thing to talk about other major investments. Has anybody seen a brand new sidewalk on 67th Street? Has anybody seen that? That is a brand new investment that we worked with the alderman to get done recently. And you see there's many other things coming. We've made improvements in some of the harbors. I know we're not exactly where we want to be, but we have made some improvements in the harbors. We've made improvements to 63rd Street Beach House as well. And from a program standpoint, we are increasing our programs in Jackson Park and South Shore Cultural Center and other parts in the Hyde Park community, Nichols and others. So we are out here doing it.
You're shrinking 63rd Street Beach. You're shrinking it.
All right, so, okay, wait a minute. Project 63rd Street Beach is not part of this project, but since it is in Jackson Park and they know, so you can step out because you've heard this from me before. You know, more than half of our beach has been taken away with the natural plantings. All of our picnic spaces have been taken away with the natural plantings. And we know that they have it on Montrose, but Montrose has a really nice cute fence, and it's a small square, and it says nature area. Where people used to picnic, where I had the park district put barbecue pits so the families didn't have to drag their girls out to the park, that has now all been covered with those natural plantings, and we don't have one sign. And I heard somebody say earlier, and the one thing that I wrote down, and I just want to show everybody, when they said that the Park District, the Great Lakes Restoration and Eco Funding became available, it did not become available. You all wrote the grant. And you know, this is where the people on the south side go in the summer to recreate. And by taking that away, you are taking away people in the parks. And so one of my issues, and this is just my personal issue, they will tell you it is my personal issue. The superintendent will tell you I've bent his ear many a day, because people should be using the park. And while I respect the plants and the animals, I think the people come first. And I think it's very important that the kids in the neighborhood have a park to play in, and that Lakeshore Drive, that we should continue to see Lakeshore Drive while we're driving down, because we have put those mountains up there where we can't even see Lakeshore Drive, and we have pushed people off of the park. I mean, that, you've heard it. You've heard it, and there's nothing gets me going more than that. And then on the other side of the drive, you built a little mound so people can't even see people playing in the park, and it says it's to protect the park. And it does not protect the park that allows amplified sound. Somebody brought me something here today, and I will pass it around. I'm gonna show it to you. But it's an old picture of what 63rd Street Beach used to be like before we had all the weeds, and I call them weeds. So I mean, because that's what it looks like. It's a mess. I'll give it to you because she gave me 2 copies.
It's a beach.
All right, I'm just gonna give it. So if anybody has issues with that, I hope I have addressed that to them, and trust me, they are aware of it. It is not called erosion.
So I wanted to second what Ms. Paretsky said earlier, that I think many of us who live here on the south side, and I live in South Shore, would like to see the existing facilities restored to a state that would make us proud. And talking about the 63rd Street Beach House, it used to have a lovely internal thing for children to play in, and that's been broken down and choken with weeds. I don't, if it's been restored, that would be a miracle, but...
It has, okay. It's open daily from 11 to 7 per kid.
Well, it wasn't last summer.
Well, it is now. We've already figured that out and worked it out.
But in general, I think that we would like to know not only the broad project for Jackson Park, but the broad project for Jackson Park south of Hayes, which we have no picture of what's happening with that, but I'm sure there are plans for it. And to include, by the way, where we're standing now, La Rabida Point, which I believe is part of the park, and we'd like to know what's going to become of that. And to be included in that, and to know, although it's not Jackson Park, what's going to go on further south with Rainbow Beach. Because my sense is there's a vision here that is a unified vision, but none of us are allowed to know what it is.
Say that.
All right, wait, let me do one more, then I'll get you. We're going south. The gentleman has a blue shirt.
Wow.
My name's Eric Ginsberg. I lived in Chicago for 15 years. But I grew up in the country, and
You near the speaker? You near the speaker?
I grew up in the country, and I bring my kids to Jackson Park, but I bring them there for the quiet. And so I appreciate the berms that are along Lakeshore Drive. I'm sorry, respectfully disagree with you. And I respectfully disagree that there should be any music pavilion there. I don't understand why in one of the few remaining natural areas in Chicago we need to put any more buildings. I'm very happy to hear this. I'm very happy to hear that you're putting the kibosh on the road across Darrow Bridge, the big road.
There was a big road. control. That's the whole
But I'm
point.
very disappointed to hear that you consider the music pavilion approved.
Nothing's approved.
The alderman used the word approved.
Yes.
Many of us heard her.
I did, it was at the meeting, it was approved,
At what meeting?
by the people that were in attendance at the meeting.
And what
Alright, and granted, things changed, that's true. No, they didn't. I'm not gonna go back on what the people that came out and took the time to listen to the presentation, and they made that decision. And that has been, now that there has been more attention drawn to it, that we have to flush it out. And if at the end of the day something changes, I mean, because things do change, but I have to stand by